Last patch of the year, this one is going to have some potential changes in the micro patch in the midst of December, and it's a small patch. Most of the hype is being saved for the preseason changes that we're seeing, the new items coming in. But before we advance into those, let's look before into some information, basically before the champions. So ranked ending will be on the 7th of January, basically. And it's the last day of this patch cycle, which, as I said, there will be a micro patch in between, according to them, to balance things out, perhaps. Ranked queues will be disabled for 12 hours for preparation of Season 1 2026, which means on the 8th at noon, it will be basically back once again. Viktor scans WISD is going to be launched, but in limited queues. It's not going to be live in ranked or drafting queues, so don't worry about that. It will be only for normal and certain game modes. Overall, they added new features, but they launched a video talking about it, talking about the new item that they want, the new items and old items that they want to bring into the next year, and it's quite exciting. We will see a lot of changes. But yeah, we're talking about this patch, so let's move into that. Champion selects. You are no longer able to ban champions hovered by your teammates. Basically, if someone hovers Zaahen, for example, you cannot ban it anymore. And yeah, it's trying to improve quality of life before the game even begins and try to keep the team sanity. There can be some general hostage. While if you wanted to ban Zaahen, for example, you just hover Zaahen and then the person says, but I wanted to ban this champion, and then there's still some room to have some toxicity, but it might be less than before for sure. Sanctum will be running 2 mythic variants in the Sanctum this time around. We'll be joining the roster terrorizing bot lanes everywhere. 2602. Okay, so the second patch of the next year. Your shop is back this patch, make sure to check it out. Arcane Anniversary, and let's begin with champions. So basically, Braum is going to get 20 flat HP on his base stats, and damage and follow-up attacks will go up by 20% on his passive. More than 1% win rate on Braum. He has been heavily affected ever since he got his armor nerfed in his base stats too. So this is going to give him like 1% to 1.5% win rates with the follow-up of the passive, because 20 HP is usually a 0.6 or 0.7 win rate increase. When it comes up to a passive change like this, I would say it gives a bit more of an oomph to the champion. Dr. Mundo monster damage cap is going to be decreased in every single stage, mainly earlier on because it's when it matters. So minus 50 damage on his infected bonesaw. And despite the bug fix, being overestimated by Riot, as they're saying, they still want to tune him down a bit, basically. It's a little bit over the line, and with the next year bringing Giant Slayer back, then I do believe that Mundo will be quite easier to actually play around, I would say. But yeah, it's a nerf. Kayn, bonus post mitigation magic damage 25 to 20 and 45 to 40. I'm not sure how oppressive the Dark and Kayn really is. I barely see it. I do believe that this could be a lower elo change, but overall he's going to get his damage, his bonus post mitigation magic damage tuned down a bit on the Darkened Scythe. Kha'Zix base damage is going to be lowered because his W evolution is going to be tuned down, so they want to nerf this champ. It's a bit weird because there are a lot of champions that are not being nerfed or even touched at all, such as Zaahen, for example. So it's really weird that we're not seeing anything, but maybe it's going to be saved for the micro patch coming in a few weeks. Mastery gonna drop 15 HP and also a bit of attack damage growth, which means 1% win rate drop, mainly for low elo mastery. But if you're playing high elo mastery champion, as it is, you should mainly play it when the enemy composition doesn't really have much CC, or if you have a good baseline of enchanters slash frontline to make up for the fact that you want to enter against your enemies. But overall, yeah, it's likely going to be 1% drop in most ranks. Mel has been constantly changed for the past few weeks. Her passive value is still really broken, and Mel is going to have her E affected, which means her orb magic damage is going to drop by 20, and this is to punish the E max Mels that we've been seeing sometimes. This will obviously affect our wave clear efficiency during the landing phase 2, or wave clearing breakpoints on each level, which means magic damage is going to be lowered. Magic damage per second is also going to be lowered. Lingering debuff duration also going to be lowered in the amount of seconds. And this affects the Blackfire towards the Liandry's approach because of the dotting scheme that Mel has on her kit. And the mana cost is also going to be increased. So her passive is still OP, but her E is not going to be as annoying as it was before, and it was already nerfed before when it comes to her root duration. So losing more damage, yes, she preserved the passive damage, but the power shifted a lot around her E into her passive, and her E is a lot less reliable in comparison to what it was 3 to 4 patches ago. Nasus 19 HP, base damage is going up for 5, so 1% win rate on Nasus once again. 19 HP here, spammable ability, you get 5 more damage on his stack, so yeah, it feels placebo overall, but of course, 5 damage in an ability you can spam a lot. Of course, it changes a bit, but still, not the hugest thing that we are seeing right now. Javelin Toss bonus damage beyond 525 range is going to go from 30 to 0%. Damage at ranges below 525 are unaffected. Okay, so basically they want to punish mainly high elo Nidalees. Sejuani cooldown is going to be decreased. Mana cost is also going to be decreased. AP ratio going up. Overall, the AP ratio going up doesn't really concern me that much because Sejuani is not the type of champion that even if you want to go with AP builds, unless you go normal or you want to have fun, you're not going for the glass cannon Sejuani type of build. You want to go for stuff that gives her a bruiser kind of approach for her, whether it's Riftmaker, Liandry's, Bloodletter. So it's not too much AP that you end up stacking. So the AP ratio, it helps a bit, mainly for top Sejuani with the mana cost going down and the cooldown going down as well with her ulti. So even though it's a jungle buff for Sejuani, I would still say that it's probably even better for top lane Sejuani in some scenarios if you're able to play it. So yeah, AP ratio, despite going up by a lot, it's different to increase AP ratio on a Syndra in comparison to a Sejuani because Sejuani cannot really stack that much AP after all. Swain, passive Ravenous Flock, heal per fragment. This is a huge buff. It goes from 3 into 6% based on level to flat 6%. Huge buff for Swain. Basically, he gets the level 18 heal per fragment, which means when he hits abilities, it will recover health a lot more frequently, and it will be more annoying to actually punish Swain. If low elo Swain is already strong, well, despite higher elo also enjoying this buff, lower elo Swain will be even more obnoxious in the near future. So if you're actually playing in low elo brackets and you like to play Swain, you should actually expect and possibly abuse the fact that he gets a flat 6% heal per fragment, which allows Swain to have a shit ton of sustain overall. Viktor, shield is going down in the flat, is going up, sorry, in the level base value and also up in the percentage of AP. And this is quite big because it incentivizes, some people would say that this incentivizes for Viktor with less AP being built to have more survivability, but this is exactly the opposite because despite having more base value based on level, now if you go more glass cannon, it means that you will have a bigger shield. So it's more forgiving for you to, for example, skip the row builds and go for a more AP heavy type of build with Blackfire Torch, Lichbane if you're playing versus a lot of melees, for example. So I would say that this buff makes Viktor go more glass cannon and be harder to punish instead of going Rod of Ages. So really nice change for Viktor, and we might see him getting a proper battle mage approach and probably also being more banned in the future. Zaahen is actually gaining exchange, so I was wrong. Okay. Macro patch during 25-23, but we wanted to capture... Oh, yeah. So this already happened. Bonus AD per stack, it went down basically. AD ratio also went down. Second cast base damage also went down, along with the cooldown going up. This is 25.24. damage modifier is going up on his Q, and the sweet spot damage was also lower to affect Zaahen because, yeah, when he's ahead, it's really hard to shut down the champion, but when he's really behind, it's also difficult to make him work as well unless he reaches a certain level of power spike. Z damage to monsters 2x from 2x to 1.8x. I'm not sure if this affects the fact that if he is able to do this and buy 2 long swords. So if this affects the fact that he cannot reach the scuttler with 2 long swords, then Z is heavily affected, of course. So they want to affect his clear speed. Let's see how it goes in the next patch. And the last change of the patch, last change of the year potentially, not counting with the macro patch, is going to be Bloodline. So lifesteal per stack is once again being increased from 0.4 to 0.45. I think the initial value was 0.35, and now it goes from the maximum lifesteal from 6 to 6.75, providing more sustain because Alacrity is being more appetizing overall as an option. One thing that I want to say, because we will not speak about Arena, is the fact that the movement speed shard and the mobility is quite good to have in some champions. If you're able to have a setup where you can take movement speed shard and it's not as prioritized in comparison to other shards such as adaptive or HP per level, movement speed shard can be quite good in a lot of classes, and you should be using it more often too. Not gonna mention as well. I should mention this as well, but the tenacity and still resistance can be actually good in some setups as well, and get that movement speed shard along with you actually helps you to pivot more smoothly around the map and around team fights against some certain compositions. So keep that in mind. TLDR of the patch, it's quite small. I think it's mostly, I think it was LS who said it. It's pretty much a nothing burger patch overall. Braum getting 1% win rate, Mundo dropping 1%, Kayn getting randomly nerfed because of his blue form, Kha'Zix also losing a bit of damage, Master E mainly for lower yellow brackets losing 1%, Mel losing her E power a bit once again, but her passive is completely overpowered. Nasus losing, getting 1% win rate because of this buff. Nidalee high yellow change. Sejuani mostly a top lane buff for Sejuani despite not caring too much about the first TP ratio or whatever it is. Swain huge low yellow buff because of the healing, but also a buff for higher elo Swain players. Viktor a huge buff for those who want to play Classic and Viktor instead of perma playing Viktor with the Rod of Ages iteration. Zaahen, he got some changes in the micro patch from 25.23, but also getting some extra nerfs because of his current state. And Zed, we'll see how he lands with all of these nerfs and if he's able to bring 2 long swords into the skull crab at 330. And Bloodline starting to be a bit more in the debate because this value was quite low, but now that it gets rebuffed, it's starting to accumulate, so maybe it might be good when it comes to sustain. So yeah, this was the last patch of the year. Micro patch might be coming. I won't be covering those. So for the last time, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and I hope you guys have a lovely transition into 2026.